I like Nolan more than anybody, okay? I'm a fan of Tenet for crying out loud. So it might be surprising that I don't enjoy Interstellar as much as everybody else seems to. For me, this film does not satisfy me in the way that this man's movies normally do. I love the space setting, the idea of a dying Earth. I love the actors, I love the music, I love the cinematography, I love the script for the most part. Unfortunately, this movie lacks the one thing that I love about Nolan so much. Unlike any other Nolan movie, when the pieces fall together, you're still left hungry for more. And unless you possess a PhD or have deep dove the internet on quantum physics, you don't get the satisfaction of solving the whole puzzle, which for a lot of people is a huge Nolan staple. Let's go through the story of Interstellar and witness how complicated logic paired with emotion makes this climax fall flat. Then ultimately ask the question, does all this complexity equal the final act's payoff? Humanity is dying. You remember learning about the Dust Bowl in school? Yeah, now everywhere on Earth is like the Dust Bowl. There was a worldwide blight that killed all plants except corn. This means that this nice family has a healthy diet of cornbread, popcorn, corn on the cob. They might also have corn. We're introduced to an ex-pilot who used to work for NASA named Joseph Cooper. Cooper used to travel the galaxy, but because of the world's focus shifting to farming rather than intergalactic travel, he now runs a little farm with his family. The two kids, Tom and Murph, and the dad of his deceased wife, named Donald. The movie begins with Cooper inside a dream, reliving his last mission to space, which he crashed in. After the dream, we also see his close relationship with his daughter, Murph. Murph is currently being contacted by something she calls a ghost, with books falling off a shelf. At first, Cooper doesn't believe this ghost is real, but once they're forced to come home from a baseball game, Cooper starts to believe in this anomaly. He sits for a while and figures out that the way the dust fell in the room is a message, coordinates to an unknown location. So Cooper and Murph hop in the back of the truck and go to figure out whatever the hell this means. The pair drive and drive until they arrive at a gate in the middle of nowhere. When attempting to cut through, they are stopped by some sort of machine. As Cooper talks with this military robot named TARS, I want to mention this movie's masterful exposition up until this point. So far, the movie has filled us in with a lot of showing and not telling. They have a lot of empty shots where we see the dust storms or the Yankees fall from grace. There's a scene with Murph getting into a fight that explains the extent that the world has canceled science. It's a great job setting up our home base. Now we have to set up our mission. We meet Dr. Brand, played by Anne Hathaway, and she takes us into a room with her dad and a bunch of other NASA board members. Yes, the coordinates were to a NASA secret base, which they have to enclose because the world's focused on farming. Then we are just slapped with lines and lines of dialogue telling us what's about to happen. Cooper's told there's a wormhole out by Saturn made by someone. The wormhole is a portal to a new galaxy. He's told that years ago NASA sent 12 humans through that wormhole to see if there are any habitable planets to move the human race to. Dr. Brand's dad, I'm just going to call him Michael Caine, offers a job to Cooper. Pilot the spaceship Endurance through the wormhole to one of these planets in the new galaxy and either hope that Michael Caine has figured out an equation to get the human race there or start a new human race of your own with these 500,000 fertilized eggs. I'll admit, it's laid out a little clearer than that. But geez, this is a change in pace for my information consumption compared to the first half. And just so we're clear, Cooper's taking the spaceship Endurance through the wormhole to find a habitable planet with his crew. Plan A, find the planet. Trust this guy to figure out a gravity equation to get the human race. Plan B, raise all these fertilized eggs on the new planet. Before we blast off though, Cooper has to have a tough conversation and say goodbye to Murph. She tries to tell him that the ghost gave her a message. The message is about him, and it says S-T-A-Y. A teary-eyed Cooper confronts Murph as she refuses to even look at him. She never makes up with her dad before he drives away and ascends into orbit. Oh yeah, and Tom said goodbye too. This completes the first act, and I'd say it was easy enough to follow. The Endurance sets off, and it's going where only 12 men/women have gone before. Along our journey to the first destination, which is Miller's Planet, I'm just going to go off my notes here. I said, we have a lot of good sci-fi shit. The sci-fi shit that I'm talking about is more in-your-face explanations about what's about to happen. But to be honest, I have to give credit to this whole concept. We are going to Miller's Planet, which is right next to the black hole named Gargantua. Because of the gravity from the black hole, the time on Miller's Planet is dilated, meaning every hour on Miller's Planet is 7 years back on Earth. To minimize their time wasted, one of them will sit up in orbit, wait for the other 3 to collect data, and then return. If anything goes wrong, they're wasting days per second. This is represented on the planet with Hans Zimmer's score, a ticking clock every 1.25 seconds. Exactly a day on Earth. You are literally witnessing the days tick away. Too bad though, because Miller's Planet does not end up working out as planned. There's these huge waves because of the strong gravity, and while on the planet they have the realization that because of the time dilation, Miller just arrived here seconds ago. So of course her signal near the data meant absolutely nothing. She probably got wiped out the wave before this one. How do scientists not think about that? Once Brand and Cooper get back into Miller's Planet's orbit, they assess the damage. 23 years spent on Miller's Planet. Cooper goes to see his transmissions from the years he's missed. And holy shit, he's missed a lot. This is one of those scenes that I can't describe with words. Missing 23 years of his children's lives. He sees Tom's trials and tribulations and changing actors to Casey Affleck. In 23 years, the only messages left were from him and Donald a bit, up until the very end. Murph shows up, telling her dad about how she's turning his age. And I'm just tearing up thinking about it now. I guess this is another form of telling and not showing, but man, the impact it has weighs heavy. Back to business, the team has a decision to make. 2 planets to choose from that could be habitable. We have Dr. Mann's planet, and we have Edmund's planet. Dr. Brand badly wants Edmund's planet, and not just for scientific reasons. She is in love with Edmunds. She talks about how love transcends time and space. This really puts a damper on the situation. Cooper sees her emotion as a weakness, and they ultimately decide to go with Mann's planet. Mann's planet is a trip, let me tell you, but there is something going down back on Earth. Michael Caine is dying. Dr. Brand is dying. That sounds better. He already knows the answer to the equation to make Plan A work, or how to get it, rather. He was just using Plan A as motivation for people to sign up, people who cared about their kids and things like Cooper. He never believed in the space station idea. All the Dr. Mann stuff that takes place at the end of the second act is a whole movie in itself. I do suggest you go watch it. But since this isn't a character study, we are going to skip over most of it. All I really need to mention is this guy named Rom. He laid out a plan to send TARS into the black hole so he could gather the quantum data and submit it back to Earth. He says this stuff right before he blows up. Even with death, at the very least, he sets up the start to our end. Brand and Cooper are now back on the Endurance. They choose to move forward with the plan of throwing TARS into the black hole, giving him the chance to submit the quantum data back to Murph or NASA and save the existing human race. That is a mouthful. This isn't just a suicide mission, though. These two are going to use the black hole's gravitational pull to slingshot around and get to Edmund's planet. Edmund's, of course, being this chick's love interest. The time for TARS to detach has come. But TARS is not alone. For some godforsaken reason, Cooper decides to enter the black hole himself. Back on Earth, Murph knows what she needs to do. She goes back to her old house, into her old room, to try and contact her ghost again. We then start the fairly frequent cross-cutting from space to Earth. You see Cooper talking himself through this experience. Coop is in the black hole, being hit with what looks like sand, and then sparks. Cooper eventually has to eject, and the space around him is dead, cold, and quiet. In the dull silence past the black hole's event horizon, this is where the true science of the film goes into a place that humans don't truly understand. Nolan still works in the realm of reality, trying to represent this new dimension in a way that the masses could understand, but in my opinion, he fails. Cooper is spiraling through the darkness until he starts falling through this Inception-esque landscape. He falls and falls until he's stopped by one of the Tesseract's rows or columns. If you really want to know what the Tesseract is and represents, you have to do the research. I recommend this video. But working with what we're given in the movie, all you can see is different versions of Murph's room, made up of lines of matter. These lines are gravity. All the lines make up different moments in time. So Cooper floats around to see a moment that he was heavily involved in. He's suspended on the backside of Murph's bookcase. The same bookcase that revealed the ghost. The same bookcase that Murph is staring at now. Cooper bangs on the bookshelf, causing one to fall, revealing a young Murph. Cooper scrambles, floating around looking for a different moment to cause havoc in. It's starting to become abundantly clear who Murph's ghost is. Cooper keeps floating, searching for the opportunity to save his past self and save Murph from having to grow up alone. He makes his way to the time just before he said his last goodbye to Murph. And even though he knows the outcome, he still delivers her the S-T-A-Y message. But how could he cause events in the past if he's here in the future? This is where I want to bring up the Bootstrap Paradox. A simple way to understand this concept is, imagine you have a book of instructions, but you don't know where it came from. You follow the instructions to build a time machine, go back in time, and give the instructions to your younger self. Now, who actually wrote the book? It exists in a loop with no clear starting point, thus the paradox. I guess I could have just said chicken or the egg. This paradox is exactly what we're witnessing in this very moment. Okay, a little mind-breaking, but it doesn't matter. I'm emotionally invested. As long as they don't overload me more, cue TARS, the information machine. Since Nolan figured people might be wondering why the Tesseract is here, he decides to explain it with another Bootstrap Paradox. Let me try and explain this one in simple terms. Beings of the future who are living in the fifth dimension put the Tesseract here, as well as the wormhole. The Tesseract is a 3D space for us to understand. It's constructed inside their 5D space, which does not follow the rules of space-time. Okay, are you with me? No? Let's just have TARS explain it.
In their fifth dimension, they saved us.
What the hell is they? And just why they want to help us, huh?
I don't know, but they constructed this three-dimensional space inside their five-dimensional reality to allow you to understand it.
Hell, that ain't working.
Jesus, that is a lot. And it's just people of the future are using Cooper and Murph from the past as a transmitter to allow them to be created. How does that... But now that we all feel semi-educated, Cooper hits us with this line.
That's why I'm here. I'm gonna find a way to tell Murph, just like I found this moment.
How, Cooper?
Love, TARS, love. It's just like Gran said. My connection with Murph, it is quantifiable. It's the key.
And I'm sorry, but all this is just, number one, how would you know that love is what connects all of this? That's obviously just a cop-out to actually relate to an average viewer and call back to brand. Number two, if these beings have infinite access to time and space, why are we watching a race against time right now? With all this cross-cutting? Well, yeah, Murph gets the data with Cooper using the gravity lines to give it to her. The Tesseract closes, and you think Cooper's gonna die, and hell no, happy endings only. He wakes up on a space station named after Murph and reunites with his daughter, who's much older than he is. Okay, this is super nice and all, and if you're emotionally invested, then you'll probably be brought to tears. For me, though, this emotional payoff of these two reuniting did not warrant the absolute shitstorm of information that we just had to sit through. Let me just lay this out so you can make your opinion. Christopher Nolan movies are always grounded in reality. Even though his overall resolution or aha moment in a movie can be whimsical, the conclusion you can come to is something based in the real world. This is present in Interstellar with the big moments of Cooper and Murph reuniting. Oh, and the human race being saved, of course. But the way the pieces fall into place doesn't fit those themes perfectly. The guy is working with ideas that are so far out there. When you have to back off those ideas and resort to something as unscientific as love, the resolution or payoff or whatever you want to call it is dull. There's so much more pressure on these scenes. Because when you're sitting there trying to think about what Cooper and TARS were just talking each other through, you're not feeling the full emotion. This moment, and even Cooper going off to find Brand, It's all great emotional moments, but it has to carry the weight of this movie too much. When you have back-to-back bootstrap paradoxes and lazy exposition about a different dimension, you then have to look past parts of this film. And so, all this is just too much for me. And I like Tenet. And with that, thank you for watching, Sophia, specifically you, Sophia. And thanks to everybody who decided to click on this one. I did have a lot of fun making this one because, as I said a few times, I absolutely love Christopher Nolan. So it's cool to get to sit down and just be able to pick apart why I like this movie less than a lot of his others. But please share your opinions on what you think, and if I'm completely wrong, tell me why, because I would love to hash out with you in the comments. And yeah, I think that's it. So, deuces.